What stops us from having the life we want? What is the force that shapes and controls the quality of our lives? Why do we do the things we do? All of us have dreams and desires for our lives, our careers, our families, and our relationships. However, for most of us, it is difficult to experience the happiness we seek. In this film, you will learn about fundamental patterns that drive human behavior and control our relationships. We will answer the 3 practical questions of human needs psychology. The first question is, what is stopping you from having the life you want? The second question is, what is shaping and controlling your choices and your emotions? And thirdly, we will ask, why do we do the things we do? If it's so easy to change how we think and feel, why don't we? It is easy to believe that our emotions are outside of our control. Depressed people seem to be naturally depressed, and happy people seem like they are naturally happy without having to try. The truth is that emotions do not come to us, we go to them. If you regularly experience anger, sadness, guilt, or fear, instead of joy, gratitude, compassion, and excitement, this film will demonstrate how to understand your emotional patterns, the needs they meet within you, and how to make a conscious choice about the emotions you want to experience in life. We begin our story with Anthony Robbins speaking at a conference before 3,000 people. In order to show how quickly people can change their emotions, he asks for a show of hands from people who suffer from depression. Tani is an attractive, intelligent young woman who uses depression to get sympathy and love. However, she gets caught up in the idea of being depressed and ends up feeling unhappy and alienating those around her. Using human needs psychology, Robbins will elucidate how Tani's emotional patterns function to bring on suffering. By clarifying these core emotional patterns, Tani is able to develop the self-awareness necessary to avoid using depression and instead to make bold new decisions. Today, she lives a radically different life that makes her proud. Robbins will first demonstrate the principle of the triad. All behaviors, including emotions, are made up of 3 elements working together. Patterns of physiology and posture influence your biochemical state and thus your emotions. Patterns of mental focus determine how you experience the world. And thirdly, patterns of language control the way you express and represent your experience to yourself and to others. These 3, physiology, focus, and language, create the meanings that determine the way we experience our life. In order to be depressed, a person must assume a certain posture, focus on certain specific things, and use certain specific language patterns that lead to depression. Robbins will begin by asking Tani to deliberately put herself into a state of depression so that the audience can see what patterns of physiology, focus, and language are necessary for her to feel depressed.
Okay, where's the lady right here who just raised her hand? I just saw it. Yes, ma'am. Would you stand up for a moment? What's your name? I'm sorry? Tani. Can we get a microphone for Tani? Now, you don't look very depressed right now. Are you really depressed right now?
Yeah.
You are. I see. How depressed are you on a 0 to 10 scale? 10 is totally depressed, want to kill yourself. 0 is not depressed at all.
About an 8.
About an 8. Interesting.
About an 8.
And you're feeling that right now?
Actually, I'm doing pretty good since I've been here.
Yeah, you're doing better right now. How many saw she was not depressed just now? Let me see a show of hands if you saw it. Okay. But you could get there if you wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Right now, you're not actually depressed. What are you feeling right now?
Hopeful.
Hopeful. By the way, how many saw that in her body?
In talking to Robbins, Tani is momentarily hopeful. Robbins points out that when Tani feels emotional states, these states are linked to physiological patterns in her body.
I want you to notice Tani's physiology right now when she's hopeful. If you notice, she's got one arm here, but the other one is loose. And she's smiling, and if you notice her shoulders are back a little bit, not all the way, but a little bit, and her head's kind of bouncing like this. That's called hopeful for her. And you can see now it's even more than hopeful right now. There's a different feeling she just had as I point this out. Okay, now, that's not depressed. And she smiled. How many of you felt when she took the microphone she was not depressed? Let me see your hands. Now, how come 3,000 people all knew that? Because you're all natural psychologists and you know that is not depression. Now, you can fake somewhat, but if you're totally depressed, you couldn't have smiled as big as she did. And she would have been not in the same position.
Robbins sees that Tani's depression is not life-threatening, though it creates real problems for her. He will now ask her to deliberately make herself depressed in order to investigate how she does it.
Now, what I'd like you to do for me is I'd like you to get depressed. Because you were depressed earlier tonight, I assume, or earlier today? Is that right? Okay. Can you get depressed for me?
It's pretty easy.
Okay. Show me how to do it because I'm not very successful at this. Really get depressed right now. I mean it for real. Get really depressed. Do what you do with your body when you're really depressed. There you go. And now I want you to double the depression, whatever you got to do. Do what you do with your body when you're twice as depressed. Focus on what you focus on when you're twice as depressed. Say to yourself what you say when you're, there you go, when you're really depressed. Say it in the tone of voice you use when you're really depressed. How depressed are you right now, 0 to 10? Stay in that state and just tell me how depressed, 0 to 10.
Pretty depressed.
Where are you? 10 is want to kill yourself, 0 is not depressed at all. Where are you?
About a 9.
About an 8?
A 9.
9. Okay, now stay there in that state so we can learn something. How many saw her change her physiology radically to go into depression? Raise your hand. What did she specifically do to go from hopeful to depressed? By the way, how fast did she go from hopeful to depressed? How fast? And heartbeat. What'd she change? Someone tell me. Posture. What part? What happened? Where did her head go? Head's down. What else changed? Stay in that. Oh, stay depressed. You're going to screw this up. Stay depressed. I don't want you getting happy on me. Don't you get happy on me. You stay depressed, damn it.
Robbins has demonstrated how quickly Tani can take herself from hopeful to depressed and then to laughter. He pretends to be angry and disappointed that she cannot maintain her depression, and he uses surprising and shocking language to trigger a heightened emotional state that will help her to learn and remember.
Don't you start smiling shit, that'll the whole thing up. Laughing is the worst thing you can do to beat it. You stop laughing, bitch. Don't you smile. Go back to depression, come on. Give me a little help here. That's it, good. Get that hand back up, good, that's good, that helps. How many notice that hand's really important to the depression thing? So she dropped her head, what happened to her breathing, full or shallow? Started to get shallow, head's down, what happened to her shoulders? Down, go, stay there. Down, right? So shallow breathing, head down. What else did you notice? Come on, what else did you notice? She started squeezing her hand on that microphone tight. Did you notice that? Tension. Tapping the microphone, that tension. What else did she do to get into that state? What'd she finally do? That's right, she kind of leaned down, crouched down, brought her hand up to her head.
Now that Robbins has pointed out the physiological pattern in Tani's depression, he will ask her what she focuses on in order to feel depressed.
Now that's just the physical side. Now as you stay in this state, tell me, what are you focusing on to be depressed at level 9?
My lack of happiness.
Your lack of happiness. Mm-hmm. And when you say you're focused on your lack of happiness, what do you picture? What do you think about?
My not being able to stop crying a lot lately.
Not being able to stop crying. What do you think about that makes you remember that you're not able to stop crying? Could you get to crying for us? Could you get that depressed? Oh, come on, you can do it. If you're able to get to the place of not being able to stop, let's go there. That's a much better example.
I'm not being able to put my past behind me.
Not able to put your past behind you. What do you focus on in your past in order to be depressed? Just say it.
My lack of trust in people.
Your lack of trust in people or in men?
Men.
Bet you're glad you volunteered for this, aren't you? By the way, I'm a man.
Tani put herself again in a depressed state through her physical posture, her breathing, and her thought process. Robbins will now humorously provoke her into another emotional state to continue to show how easy it is to go from one emotional state to another.
What does that microphone remind you of? You're not looking too depressed now. What do you feel? That's a new state. What are you feeling right now?
Actually, a little pissed.
Yeah, that's what I thought. By the way, pissed is much better than depressed. Notice what happens to get pissed. What'd she do? She brought her head back up and her shoulders back up. She's still tense, but she's like, don't with me. Which is a lot different than I'm helpless and I can't put my past behind me. So pissed might be a more useful state. It's certainly not the end all and be all, but she can get out of depression and go pissed real quickly. In fact, I bet you've done this plenty of times. When she gets tired of being sad, she gets pissed. Am I right?
Yeah.
I call this a crazy eight. She gets really depressed and tired and feels helpless, and she gets tired of feeling that feeling. I'll explain why later. And then she gets pissed, which makes her feel strong for a short time. Then she's tired of being pissed, so she goes back to connecting with herself and feeling sad again. And she gets tired, then she gets pissed. True or false? So this is a very simple pattern, and it's not unique. And she's good at it because she's practiced it for years, true?
I'm a master.
Yes, I can see that. And she's proud of it.
For Tani, depression is a way for her to connect and commiserate with herself. However, when this depression begins to make her feel too weak, she snaps out of it with anger. This emotional pattern of alternating between sadness and anger is called a crazy eight. Many people live most of their lives alternating between these two emotions.
Especially when some guy gives me shit. Oh, yes, I see. Let's go back to depressed, though, because it's so much more fun. Go back to depressed. Notice she knows exactly where to go. Does she know what to do to get depressed, yes or no? She would have you believe that happens to her. When all I do is tell her to do it, and she goes, okay, I know exactly what to do. Go ahead, get depressed. Get back to 9 level of depression again. Don't go to 10.
Thanks.
You nod your head when you're back to 9. Focus on what you focus on.
Is this a Freudian thing?
What's that?
Is this a Freudian thing?
I don't know. You tell me. All I know is you keep twisting that thing real tight. You rubbing it off now? Is that what you're doing here? You get back to that depression thing. Come on, get back to that depression thing. Level 8. Nod when you're there. Okay? Tell me what you're focusing on right now to be depressed at level 8. What are you picturing? What are you focusing on? What are you remembering? Specifically, to be depressed at level 8 or 9.
I don't know.
Pardon me?
I don't know.
You're not there? What are you focused on? The men that you can't trust from your past. Now, by the way, keep staying in that state. How many noticed a pattern that's different with her head when she's hopeful than when she's depressed? A very simple pattern. Raise your hand if you've seen it. What does she do with her head continuously when she's depressed and frustrated? When she's hopeful, what was she doing with her head? How many saw that pattern? That's universal, by the way. What do you say to yourself to be depressed like this? Just say out loud what you're saying in your head when you're really depressed.
When people experience emotions, they are actually saying things to themselves silently. Although they are not said aloud, these language patterns have a powerful influence on our emotions. While asking her to intensify her depression, Robbins asks Tani to say out loud what she's thinking.
I'm so pathetic.
I'm so pathetic. Say it in the tone of voice you say it when you stay depressed, though.
You're so fucking pathetic.
You're so pathetic. What else do you say besides you're so pathetic? To really be depressed, what do you got to say to yourself? Really depressed. 9. Say it in the tone of voice you say it when you're that depressed.
I don't want to live my life this way.
What else do you say? You're so pathetic. I don't want to live my life this way. Is there a tone of voice here, ladies and gentlemen? Yes or no? Loud or quiet? Uptone or down? Cry in the voice or not? What else do you say to stay depressed at level 9? You ever get depressed at 10, like where you want to kill yourself? No?
No.
Shit, I thought we had a good suicide we could deal with here.
Sorry to disappoint you.
What the you doing smiling in? What are you feeling right now?
I'm going to kick your ass.
Notice, how fast can we take her from depression? How fast can we take her out of depression? How fast? 2 seconds. If you with her depression, she's pissed off at you. I'm sitting here being depressed. You can take me out of it. I'll take you out. I'll come out of my depression when I'm ready. Everybody repeat after me. Something to think about.
When Robbins surprises her and interferes with her depression, Tani reacts with anger. She is protective of her depression because she has been using it to satisfy an emotional need. Take a moment and ask yourself, if she protects her right to be depressed by being angry, how would that affect her relationships? What would happen if someone tried to help her overcome her depression? Do you know anyone who protects his or her depression or another destructive emotion? For Tani, this is a turning point. She sees the way she uses depression, and she will look for new ways to meet her emotional needs.
So we now know what she does when she's pissed, and we know what she does when she's depressed, and she seems to snap back. Let's go back to hopeful for a second.
You got me.
You're good. You're good.
This is why you get to pay the big bucks.
That's right, honey. Now, notice, how many recognize the physiology of hopeful when she went there? Raise your hand if you recognized it. What did she do? She started doing what? Nod her head, shoulders came back, head came up. What else did she do? Start to smile. So can she go from depressed to hopeful instead of depressed to pissed if she chose to? Okay, let's get that. These are wimpy-ass states. Have you ever had a state of pure ecstasy?
Oh, yeah.
Or is that what you're pissed about?
No. That's not my problem.
That's not a problem. Look at this big smile. That's not a problem. Good. What are you feeling now? No, don't change. What are you feeling when you're smiling like that? There you go. What are you feeling right there?
Excited.
Excited. That's nice.
In order to learn how to overcome her habit of depression, Tani needs to work on an antidote. a strong emotional state that will meet her emotional needs while counteracting depression. Robbins will suggest that she train herself in the emotion of ecstasy.
I'd like you to think of a specific peak experience in which you experienced a peak of ecstasy. I'm talking screaming ecstasy. Can you think of... Can you remember a particular moment?
Oh, yeah.
I'd like you to go right before the peak of that moment. I want you to remember right near the peak of that experience, sincerely. Can you actually put yourself there and remember it? And as you do that, I want you to step into that image as if you were really there. And breathe the way you're breathing right near the peak.
I might get thrown in jail.
And as you're doing that, I want you to focus on what you were focusing on right near the peak. And breathe the way you were breathing, see what you were seeing, hear what you were hearing. Were you making sounds at this point? Were you seriously? Okay, make
Probably.
that sound now. Come on, give her a hand, ladies and gentlemen. Don't put the microphone down. Give yourself the gift. My point is really simple. Instead of getting the point intellectually, get at the point in your body. Because intellectually you go, yeah, I know this. Do it in your body. Actually put yourself there and feel it sincerely. And make the sound. It can be playful. I don't think there's anybody who hasn't many sounds. Make some noises of your own, ladies and gentlemen. Help her out. Okay. See what you saw. Breathe the way you were breathing near the peak. Move the way you were moving. In your body, feel like you're moving that way. Now make the sounds at the peak that you're making, some of the sounds on the count of 3, but really sincerely do it with your voice the way it really would be. 1, 2, 3, go. That's how loud you were, huh? Make the sounds, go for it.
I'm modest.
You weren't making any sounds?
No, I was making sound.
Were you get really spiritual? Like, oh God, or were you more like, do me, more? There we go. There we go. So it was the do me more kind of thing. Now notice the head's moving faster now. Now, what are you feeling right now? Stay in that state. What are you feeling right now? She's feeling so much she can't talk. Now go back to depression.
This is better.
No, go back to depression. Come on, you've been there for years. Go to depression, come on. You can't put your past behind you. Keep your past right there in front of you so you can stare at it. Maybe you don't want to put your past behind you. Maybe this past you want to put right in front of you. Because if you can't put your past behind you, in this case, I think that's a very good thing. Because if this was constantly in front of you, imagine the smile that would be on your face all day. Maybe you've been selective about which past to put in front of you or behind you.
I know that's true.
In conducting his interventions with people, Robbins is following 7 master steps for creating lasting change. First, understand their world. Robbins began by understanding Tani's triad, the patterns of physiology, focus, and language, which come together to create the experience of depression. He also understood her typical crazy 8 emotional pattern and the source of pain in her life, her difficulty in relationships. Second, break the pattern. Using humor, challenge, and surprising language, Robbins continuously broke Tani's habitual emotional patterns. Third, find leverage. Robbins found leverage by locating what Tani cared about most, her desire for a loving, trusting relationship with a man. When Tani saw a chance to change this part of her life, She committed herself fully to the intervention. Fourth, Robbins redefined the problem. Tani's problem wasn't depression. Depression was just a way of meeting her needs in the short term that was actually destructive in the long term. What Tani really wanted was a relationship and another way to live. With depression out of the way, she can now make that change. Fifth, Robbins created alternatives for Tani. Instead of always spiraling into depression, Tani can learn to access emotions such as ecstasy and hope. The sixth step is condition the new behavior, and the seventh step is to relate the change to a higher purpose. Now Robbins will undertake step 6 to discuss the way Tani has conditioned herself to go into depression and how she can condition herself to make a conscious choice.
Now, does she have the ability to go from depressed to pissed to hopeful or to ecstatic in a matter of seconds, yes or no? Does she have the ability, yes or no? Has she proven to you that she can do them quickly and immediately, yes or no? Then why in the past has she gone to depression when she has all these other choices?
Because she's been rewarded for it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Is that fair to say? That's why she didn't like me very much when I was showing that it's all a game she's been playing for years. Now, she doesn't just do it consciously. I know you're not a manipulating bitch who's just doing this to get something. You may have moments in which you act that way, but I know that's not who you are. I mean that sincerely. But most of the time, you're not even doing it consciously. True?
That's true.
There are times when you're doing it consciously. True?
It's also true.
I appreciate your honesty. First of all, would you give her a big hand for that honesty? It's fantastic. I really honor you. First of all, I appreciate your courage to even stand up. I appreciate you playing with me because it's not a comfortable thing. Yeah. But I appreciate most and honor most your honesty because without honesty, you can change anything. Most people can never get to that level of honesty, so they have no power. And the reason they're most dishonest is with themselves. Because it doesn't feel good to say, yeah, I've used this shit at times. But you know you have and you're honest about it. That means you can change it.
Now Tani understands her pattern of being depressed in the hope that she would be loved and taken care of, and then being angry because of the feeling of helplessness brought on by depression. This crazy 8 is a common way to resolve our contradictory needs for feeling connected and vulnerable and for feeling powerful and in control. Now Robbins will move into step 7, relate to a higher purpose. He will show Tani that the radical swings of her crazy 8 are not necessary when she is connected to her higher purpose and her true self.
But you got to set up a new reward system for yourself. The other thing is you've gotten in the habit of doing it that sometimes you just do it unconsciously now because you've gotten in this, what I call crazy 8, this loop. And you like the pissed part because it makes you feel powerful. Because you feel really non-powerful in the other state, which you also like. Because you live in a world where women are no longer honored for their feminine. They're all supposed to be men now. So your one way to get feminine is to get broken. And feminine isn't about broken, feminine's about feeling. But it's not okay for you to feel. So you go there and you got enough reason to be depressed and you can feel that and maybe actually have some people step up and take care of you and honor you, a masculine energy, instead of you always being in control, but you're addicted to that control. And you call pissed off as your way of mobilizing. Now you mobilize with that pissed off and it's a useful skill, I know how to do it too, but it's not very feminine and that doesn't mean you have to be feminine every minute. I know any woman in this room can kick any man's ass in just about anything business-wise at this stage, as any man can do with any woman. There's no gender bias anymore. And a woman can do anything what a man can do and do things a man can't do. Like she can have a kid without a man today. So I want you to notice how you're feeling right now. I just saw a really beautiful smile, and it wasn't a forced smile of hopefulness, and it wasn't a smile of you just did something cool. What was that smile that I just saw? Do you remember a moment, just a second ago?
Comfort.
Comfort. It's very natural. How did that feel?
Yeah, it feels good.
How would you compare that feeling to depression?
There's no comparison.
How would you compare it to pissed?
Yeah, it doesn't measure.
What you just saw in her, if you saw her, was, how many saw that relaxation smile? How many saw that? I'm just curious. What happened is she went home for a few moments when I described what her real nature is like. You're a very feminine woman, but you have trained yourself to kick ass. And out of all the pain you've had, you've gotten really tough. And the tougher you got, the more you've lost your soul. Not your soul, that's not fair to say. The feeling of being connected to your soul. Because you've covered it all up. That's really what's depressed you. But you've gotten addicted to the feeling of getting tough and feeling sad, because the sad is the one time you allow yourself to be feminine, because in the feminine, you don't have to control, you just allow it to be. And if you allow it to be long enough, it's going to change anyway if you do nothing. Men think they got to control it and make it happen and do all those things. A woman doesn't have to do that if she's in her natural feminine state. And I'm saying this because you're the only person in this room I'm talking to right now. There are no other men and women that this relates to in this room of 3,000 people. But if they were listening to me right now, they might discover that the greatest happiness in life comes when you get back to your true nature. Your depression has nothing to do with your past. Your depression has to do with the fact that you don't know how you can ever have a great relationship and still be yourself and not be hurt. Am I right or wrong about that?
Yeah.
And the good news is that you can't, but you can't do it in that pissed state that you've used to protect yourself. Now, I found it fun, because you're like a guy. Well, you're going to challenge me back and forth, and it can be playful, and it can even be sexy or fun. Just, you can play with the energy back and forth for a while. But when you live there because you're fearful that you're not enough and you won't be loved, or if I really love and open up, someone will just hurt me, because they always have, then that protection will cause you to attract the very kind of man you don't want. And you'll talk to all your other girlfriends who have all the same problems. They'll reinforce for you that this can never be solved because they've not solved it. That's what your girlfriends tell you, isn't it? So then together you can be miserable, but at least you guys can connect. First of all, I really want to thank you sincerely and honor you. Afterwards, I'm going to ask you to diagnose yourself with what I'm about to share, which is the specific reason why you've really done this, why anyone does anything. And I'd like you to diagnose it, but I really, truly want to honor you, and I hope everyone else will, for your total sincerity and honesty and all that you've shared with us here. Give her a big hand.
Robbins asked Tani to show him what she does to get depressed. He then noticed her physiological posture, her pattern of focus, and the language patterns which came together for Tani as the experience of depression. While she was depressed, he provoked her, and she snapped out of her depression with anger. This was Tani's predominant pattern, a crazy 8. She would get depressed in the hope that she would be loved and taken care of, but when she felt weak and helpless, she would get angry to snap out of the depression. In fact, Tani even got angry to protect her right to be depressed. This shows that at some level she holds on to her depression because it satisfies a need for her. As Tani sits down, Robbins will make a presentation on the 6 human needs, specifically gearing his talk to help her understand more deeply how she uses depression to meet her needs.
We only do things because at some level, consciously or subconsciously, we believe that by doing this, by feeling this, by experiencing this, by believing this, by acting in this way, we will meet one or more of what I call our 6 human needs. Remember I said to you earlier, all human beings are raised differently. They have different backgrounds, educations, rules that you were brought up with, language patterns, languages, religions. But I am here to tell you, having been with 3 million people from all over this planet, that while we're all completely diverse in our physiologies, the way we look, think, act, behave, one thing I can tell you for sure, we're hardwired with the same needs. Most people keep their problems because they meet their needs. Most people keep their problems because it meets their needs, and it meets their needs without risking their greatest fear.
This is a key concept in human needs psychology. We recognize 2 kinds of problems, quality problems and safe problems. Quality problems involve a risky, forward-thinking decision that will often take you to another stage in life. This decision could be something like making a career shift, committing to a relationship, starting a family, or even leaving a relationship or moving. It can also be a risky interpersonal communication that leaves you vulnerable. Telling someone that you love them, confronting someone about an injustice, or asking someone for help. Sometimes quality decisions are simple, like deciding to appreciate yourself and others, or cultivating a feeling of gratitude. Safe problems, on the other hand, are lingering issues which, strictly speaking, lie within our control. Depression, procrastination, hesitation, food and other addictions, blaming others for your troubles, avoiding decisions, or withdrawing from relationships. Safe problems seem safe because they seem to protect us from our fear that if we try and fail, we won't be enough and won't be loved. Of course, in the long run, it is safe problems such as depression and addictions which cause more damage to our bodies, our spirit, and our relationships than risky problems ever do. When people come up against a risky decision that they feel unwilling to make, they will often develop a safe problem that will distract them from making a risky decision. For instance, Tani stood up with a problem of depression, a safe problem that, strictly speaking, lies within her control. Robbins discovered that Tani's greater fear lay in a risky decision, how to trust a man and develop the relationship she wants in life.
Most ways to meet your needs, you'd have to take a risk. Like start to get in a relationship, and that brings up a big risk. Because people could say they love you one day, and the next day, they screw you, or they don't. In fact, the primary fear that we are not enough and won't be loved, guess where it shows up more than any other place? In intimate relationship. Because look, that's why most people spend more time at work or with their kids. Because with their kids, they figure, I got this love forever. Because it's in the blood, right? My kids will always love me. Not all parents experience that, by the way. But that's what most people believe. On the other hand, work. You can control it by your effort, by your focus, by your commitment to do well in work. You have control of that. No control in a relationship. Influence at best, that's what you have. So it's scary as hell for people. That's why most people, that's the area of life that's most painful. I don't care what the situation is. If you don't get your relationship where you want it to be, you're going to be in pain. And you can tell yourself all day long that the business will do it, or your success will do it, or even your kids will do it. But there's a part of you that will be empty until that part of you gets healed. The first of the 6 human needs, I believe, is the need for certainty. Certainty that you can at least be comforted. We all want comfort. Another word for certainty is, think of certainty as the ability to avoid pain and the ability to have pleasure. At least to avoid pain, because avoiding pain is a survival instinct. See, we want certainty that we're not going to continuously have pain, because continuous pain means damage. Continuous damage equals death. It's hardwired into us to have some level of certainty just to survive. So we need certainty. Everybody needs it. The only question is how much of it you think you got to have. I'll tell you this, the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably live with. The more uncertainty you can live with, the more you'll try, the more you'll learn, the more alive you'll be. The more you got to be certain about everything, the less you'll have. So in this young lady's case, she really wants certainty that this next relationship won't hurt her. That's her biggest limitation. And yet she needs certainty. So how's she going to get it? Well, she can do it by being incredibly intense about the men she's with and really screening the hell out of them. But if she screens the hell out of them, many of them are going to feel judged and think, why would I want to be around this bitch? Because they'll feel judged. That's not going to attract to her what she wants. So there's many ways to get certainty. You can get certainty by eating. Because when you overeat, all the blood rushes in your stomach and you start breathing again. You can do it by smoking. Deep diaphragmatic breath happens. You can do it by drugs. You can do it by just looking at your history and saying, you know what, I've always found a way. Isn't that amazing? And I will again. Just trusting. Based on your history, you've always found the way. You can do it through a spiritual belief. You can do it in positive ways, neutral ways, or destructive ways. Because everybody finds a way to meet their need for certainty. Everyone, even crazy people. Everybody finds a way. The only question is, are you going to find a way that's a way that's obtainable or sustainable. Everybody obtains certainty. The question is, can you sustain it? And can you do it in a way that sustains you long term? There's a lot of things you can get, but you can't sustain them. By the way, if you managed to organize your life where you were certain about everything, you knew what was going to happen, when it was going to happen, how it was going to happen before it happened. Day after day after day, you knew what was going to happen before it happened, exactly how it's going to happen. You'd enjoy that for a while, wouldn't you? But after a while, what would you start to feel? Bored out of your minds.
Take a moment to consider, what are some of the ways that you use to get the feeling of certainty? What do you do with your physiology, eat, sleep, exercise, the way you breathe or stand? What do you do with your focus in order to feel certain? Do you have an empowering belief? Do you focus on your future or your past? What language patterns do you use? Are there phrases you use regularly? If you like, pause the film for a moment and write these down. Now Robbins will explain the second human need, uncertainty.
We have a need for uncertainty. We have a need for uncertainty. We have a need for variety. We have a need for surprise. How many of you in this room, tell me honestly, how many of you love surprises? If you do, say aye. Bullshit. You like the surprises you want. The surprises you don't want, you call problems. And you don't want those, but you need them because they're the things that make you grow. What's the term? Variety is the what of life? Spice. You go, yeah, but I like to choose my variety. Life doesn't work that way. See, what we need is variety to be alive. We need stimulation. We need the unknown, or we feel dead inside. See, you can get variety by doing drugs, because variety is just a change in state. You can get variety by eating. That's why people get addicted to food, because they can get comfort and variety. Drugs, comfort, and variety. You're all bored or frustrated, go smoke, and it changes your state. Variety, and you're comfortable. Ah, it meets two of my needs. Interesting. You can also get variety in positive ways, like taking on a new challenge, setting a new goal. You can get variety in a conversation. You can get variety. If someone says, life's so boring, man, I go, no, life isn't boring, you're boring. Could you sit in a room with nothing else there and have unlimited variety if you just used your brain, yes or no? See, variety is available at any moment. Most people value certainty more. That's why their life is so boring. We tend to pick, of these six, we tend to pick one or two that we value more, and it shapes the direction of our life. People that are certainty-driven end up with a very different life than people that are variety-driven.
What are some of the ways that you use to meet your need for uncertainty and variety? What do you do with your physiology, with your focus, and with your language? Do you have problems, hesitations, or fears that give you emotional uncertainty? Take a moment to write if you need to. Now Robbins will explain the third human need, significance.
Third human need, the need for significance. We all have a need to feel significant, to feel important, to feel special, to feel unique. The word significance has many different connotations. Uniqueness, special. We all have the feeling of wanting to be needed, to feel important. These are all code words for significance. Who has this need? Every human being you're ever going to meet in your life. All of us have it. The only difference is how we go about it. Some people try to be significant by achieving everything. Some people try to be significant by breaking through big problems. Some people try to be significant by having more money than someone else, or toys. Some people try to be significant, they don't want money. They're into spirituality. I'm not into significance, I'm just a Christian. But they make it very clear that their religion is more significant than any other in the world. All right? So they're all playing the same game. Some people get significance by having more earrings in more locations than you'd want to ever describe. Some do it by being unique in their tattoos. Some by having a unique hairstyle. Some people by their style of how they walk or how they talk or their humor. Everybody finds a way to be unique or special or to feel needed or to feel important. It's a human need that everyone has, even those who deny it. They just get it in a different way. You can get significance in a positive way, a neutral way, or a negative way. One of the fastest ways to significance with strangers is violence. If you go up here to the hood, not far from here, and I come up and put a gun to your head, guess what? I am instantly significant. I don't need a college education. I don't need to work at it. I don't do anything. And I am certain you're going to respond to me. I've met two of my needs. And there's variety, because who knows what's going to happen next? It's different every time. By the way, anytime something you do or believe you associate to that meeting at least 3 of your needs, you become addicted to it. Positive or negative doesn't matter. So if you got a big enough problem, because there's 2 ways to get significance. Take a huge risk, potentially fail, and look like you're unworthy and worthless and not worthy of love and face your deepest fear on earth, or have a really big problem you can share with everybody. A significant problem that's so bad that you can tell everybody about it, and now you don't ever have to face your fears. And you can feel significant, which is the choice most people make.
Think of a problem that you have struggled with or a complaint you have had for an extended time. If you have continued to focus on it without resolving it, odds are that it has helped you to meet your need for significance.
The majority of people in the world try to find big enough problems so that they never have to beat themselves up for not being enough, or so at least they can defend themselves against themselves or other people when they want to know why they haven't done it. It's not that you're gutless. It's not that you're worthless and you're not loved. It's just this horrible thing that happened to you. Funny thing, other people have had much more horrible things and they've managed to succeed. But that would require a level of truth that very few people have. This young lady in the middle row here certainly does have. And the minute you have that level of honesty, you have the power to change it. If we want to be significant, we can do it in negative ways, positive ways. You can be a troublemaker and be significant. You can be a contributor and be significant. The only question is it an attainable way or a sustainable way? Is it a way that serves you short-term or long-term? Does it serve others and you? Because if it only serves you, it's not sustainable. How do you get significance? Do you do it through business, achievement? Do you do it by being the best parent? Do you do it by the way you dress? Do you do it by being tough and you can handle anybody no matter what they do with you? Do you do it by having a really big problem that you can demonstrate at will? How do you do it?
Take a moment to think of your biggest challenge in life. Is there a problem that you wrestle with on an ongoing basis? What does that problem cost you? How does it impact your health, your relationships, and your career? What would happen in your life if that problem were resolved? If you like, pause the film to write your answers.
Now, here's the problem. To be totally significant, you got to be totally unique and different. To be totally unique and different violates your 4th human need, one of the deepest ones, the need for connection and love. Because the more different you have to be, the less connected you can be. So love or connection. Most people settle for connection, not love, by the way. There is a difference, isn't there? Most people settle for connection because it's a lot less scary. They don't have to put as much out there. It can't be hurt as bad. So settle for connection instead of love because, ooh, love, that's a very scary thing. So we'll just keep it to a certain level of depth, but never get too deep because then I won't be hurt too much. No, you just hurt for a lifetime by never experiencing your true self. Always wondering where it could have been, what it would have been like. You can get connection. The fastest way to get connection is have a problem. See, go out and do extremely well and see how many people are thrilled for you and for how long. There are some people that will always be thrilled for you. But most people, as you start doing things very successfully, most people, when they see you succeed, they look and evaluate themselves. And even though you may think they're phenomenal, they don't think they're phenomenal. And so what they begin to do is feel insignificant because of your achievements. Now they have 1 or 2 choices. Get out there and face their risks and kick ass and do something, which takes enormous fear, overcoming enormous fear, or tear you down. Which one do you think is faster and easier and more predictable? Tear you down. You can get connection by loving someone. You can get connection by making love. You can get connection by prayer. You can get connection by walking through nature. You can get connection by getting really sick and people come and want to take care of you. You can get connection by having a big problem. Anybody can get connection or love, but very few people get it the level they want. You can get it on a 0 to 10. Most people get it 3, 4, 5. Like enough connection that it's okay, but they're not really happy, but they're not unhappy enough to do anything about it. That's no man's land.
What are some of the ways that you use to get the feeling of connection? Do you get it by giving or by receiving or both? What do you do in order to receive from others? How do you give love and connection to others? Do you experience love on a regular basis or do you hold back from love? You may pause the film if you like. Now Robbins will explain the final two needs, growth and contribution.
Now, every one of us meets these first 4 needs because they're the fundamental needs of all human beings. Even if you got to make shit up, you'll do it to meet these needs. But the last 2 needs are the needs that make you fulfilled, and very few people are fulfilled. I believe success without fulfillment is failure. If you succeed and you're not fulfilled, you're a failure. And you can only be fulfilled by the final 2 needs because these needs are the needs of the spirit, I believe. The first 4 needs are the needs of your personality. Everybody meets them, even if you got to lie to yourself. The final 2 you can only meet by really doing something. And the final 2 is number 5 is you must grow. In fact, if you don't grow, you what? You know the answer. You what? You die. And number 6, you must contribute beyond yourself. You must contribute beyond yourself, because if life is just about you, I got news for you. You can make yourself feel pleasure for a moment because somebody complimented you, or because you made a certain idea come through you, or because, some situation you did really well. But that's a temporary pleasure. Fulfillment stays with you. Fulfillment only comes when you know you've grown and when you know you've contributed beyond yourself, because life is not just about us or yourself. And all of us know there are times when you did something just because it was right and it felt so incredible inside. And you didn't have to tell anybody. Nobody had to put stars on your chart. You felt it. Now, these are not my laws. These are the laws of the universe. Everything in the universe either grows or dies. Everything. And everything in the universe either contributes or is eliminated by evolution. These are the primary needs of all human beings, and very few human beings meet these on a regular basis. Most are busy making up stories so they can meet the first 4 needs in ways that don't require any risk, or a little risk as possible. So if you'd like to transform your life, I can tell you, you're all meeting these needs. The question is how? Are you meeting them in ways that empower you or disempower you? In ways that are neutral, ways that support you and other people, ways that are obtainable or sustainable? Remember, anytime you meet at least 3 needs in your mind by some behavior, some belief, you'll get addicted to it. That's true of something positive or negative. Now, I took a lot of time to do this because I don't want you to be passive with me. I want you to be active. So when somebody stands up, I want you to become the practical psychologist, the natural psychologist who starts to say, why are they doing this? Oh, they're meeting this need, this need. Interesting. How are they doing this? Oh, look what they're doing with their body. Well, look what they're doing with their language. Notice what they're focusing on. And why? Look, there's the fear showing up. And then notice how we change it so that when you leave here, you'll have a greater appreciation for every human being you meet, whether it be your child or whether it be the person you can't stand. And you'll understand why. Now, Tawny, would you stand back up? Now, did you check out that lasso move she was making there? Now, Tawny, you're not feeling too depressed right now. What are you feeling right now?
Elated.
Elated, ladies and gentlemen. And you look it. Now notice her smile. Does she have a different quality of smile there, yes or no? Yes. Now, I want to ask you a question. I'd like you now to diagnose the old pattern, because it wasn't you that you ran, and I'd like you to tell me the truth. Which of these 6 needs did you meet by getting depressed, and which of these needs, by the way, did you meet by getting pissed off? Start with depressed.
Love, I would assume.
Say again?
Love.
Love. How did you get love by being depressed? Tell the truth. Which is accurate, by the way.
Well, attention from other people, so that's love.
Connection.
And then also, trying to caress myself out of it, so giving myself the love too.
That's right. On a scale from 0 to 10, how much love are you getting by being depressed, truthfully? Tell the truth. Or at least connection from yourself and others.
I think it was a lot less than I thought.
She's seeing it now through a different state. How many follow this? But back then, how much did you associate the ability to get love, 0 to 10, with being depressed? Where would you put it?
Yeah, like an 8.
Like an 8, okay? Which means 9. And the reason I saw this because she smiled as she said 8 at that last moment. Am I correct? What was that smile when you said 8?
It was probably more.
Yes. So closer to a 9, but let's stay with 8 just so we can bullshit ourselves. Next. What other need have you met in the past by being depressed?
Oh, feeling significant.
Feeling significant. There we go. By the way, can you give her a hand for that level of honesty, first of all? That's fantastic. How did you get a feeling of significance by having this horrible depression?
Well, when I would get attention from other people, it signified that they really cared for me, that they really loved me.
That's right. So how bad was it? I mean, how significant was this depression? It wasn't measly ass little depression. It's I can't stop crying depression, right? So how difficult, how significant was it, 0 to 10?
It was like a 10.
A 10. So now we've met her need for love at an 8, really a 9. We met our significance at a 10 by having this problem. What other needs were you meeting by being depressed?
Out of the 4. Stability. Stability is a big one.
Certainty. How certain were you that you could get yourself in that state? How certain, 0 to 10? At will, at the drop of a hat?
A 7.
A 7, okay. And how certain were you that you could be in that state and stay in that state if you wanted to be? 0 to 10?
A 10.
10. So she meets her needs for certainty at a 10, her needs for significance at a 10, and love at a 9. Anytime you associate at least 3 elements, you become totally addicted to it. But she doesn't just meet them, she meets them at 9s and 10s. If you met them at 5s and 6s, you'd get addicted, but 9s and 10s, it's a total addiction. If we don't go any further, how many can see why, even though she could feel total ecstasy, joy, happiness, hopefulness, love at will just as quickly, how many can see why she was always depressed? Because it was a way of meeting her at an addictive level. Any other needs you were meeting by getting in this state of depression? You don't have to have any others, but I'm just curious if you met any others. Things are going a certain way over and over, day after day, a certain way. What could you do when you got depressed?
Oh, the rush.
Yes, the rush of depression. Did you guys hear this? What is that rush? Of feeling all your feelings, right? Feelings you weren't feeling before, which is known as variety. Uncertainty. Oh my God. 0 to 10, how much of a rush?
Oh, I could go to a 10.
10. So why would she be happy when she's got this unhappiness thing working so well? She gets connection and love, she has significance, and she doesn't have to do anything, doesn't have to take any risks, doesn't have to face anything, doesn't have to create anything. She can have a total rush in her body. In fact, she can rush herself to the point she can cry uncontrollably, which means really feel again and feel the feminine side of herself, which is allow herself to just feel without having a game plan of controlling something. But then, that's not very acceptable to stay in that state long term because people will get tired of you whining ass all the time. So you need another weapon to show people that you're not just some wuss and that you're to be reckoned with, because after a while she gets tired of feeling that sad feelings. After a while it feels insignificant, doesn't it? And weak. So then we snap into significant feelings that come from being pissy and intense. I'll whip your ass. Or what was the term you gave me earlier?
Something like I'll kick your ass.
I'll kick your ass, yeah. Something like, I'll kick your ass. That wasn't the first time you've ever used that phrase, was it? No.
I like that one.
Yeah, use it a lot. So now what we do is we whip ourselves into this state, and which needs do you meet by being in the state of I'll kick your ass?
Well, probably all of those too.
Yes.
Take a moment to review some of your typical ways of meeting your needs. Is there a problem that stands out above everything else? Is it a quality problem, a risky decision that will create progress in your life and the lives of others? Or is it a lingering, safe problem that relieves you from making a risky decision?
Significance at 0 to 10. When you're pissed off, how certain do you feel in your body on a 0 to 10, everybody? How certain? 10. When you're pissed off, people tend to respond to you even if they don't like you. How significant do you feel? 10. And by the way, you get connection with people. You don't get love, but you get connection with people. So now you got 3 of them met instantaneously. That's why most people are so angry all the time, because it's their addiction to try to feel significant when they feel insignificant. So one way to battle your own fear that you're not enough is get pissed off at something or someone or everyone else. So you've been addicted to these needs. So now the only hope for you as a solution, besides awareness, is to humiliate yourself if you go into those places by realizing I'm being a bitch. And what I'm doing is stealing from my friends by creating a problem that I totally could shift this fast. They don't deserve that, and I'm not going to do that to my own spirit. And then it's to find some new ways to do it, like ways like feeling this hopefulness or this happiness or this elation by realizing I am growing. And because I'm growing, I can pass this on to my sisterhood or my brotherhood or my children. I can grow and I can contribute, and that's where you'll be euphoric. Because the feelings you're having today are only so good. They only last so long. Where they'll really last is when it becomes not about you, when it becomes outside yourself and you, when all of it's fulfilled. But the place that'll get you back is when you get around men. Because they're going to do shit to be significant. It's going to piss you off because you know you're significant. And you're not going to want to feel insignificant. Who here can relate to this at some level? Let me see a show of hands. Very nice. Give her a big hand. Thank you very much.
Robbins showed Tani that her depression is a low-quality way of meeting her needs. It gave her certainty, variety, significance, and connection. However, depression would never lead her to lasting fulfillment. It only led to anger, which was another kind of pain. Many of us follow it. Building our dream home. And the bonus was I made more money this year than ever before. I am set to make $500,000 this year. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that May Day in Long Beach at your event. So much has happened in less than 2 years. Thank you for my great gift. I hope to see you soon. Much love, Tani. All of us have problems and complaints that we deal with on a daily basis. Think of your biggest problem right now and ask these questions. What is the problem costing you and those around you? Does it help you give to others, or does it take away from them? Is it constructive or destructive? Which needs are you meeting by having this problem? Certainty, variety, significance, connection, love, growth, or contribution? Which are the top 2 needs? If this problem disappeared, what would be next for you? How can you raise your personal standard in this area of your life? What are you determined to do in order to solve the problem? Make an action plan. If you find yourself drifting into the problem behavior, what can you do to interrupt it and get yourself on track? What can you do with your body, your focus, and your language? Imagine solving this problem. Who in your life would support your decision? How can you enlist this person to support you in the future?